were to describe what I study and teach, it's the United States as an actor on the world stage. I'm interested in American foreign policy. I'm interested in how the United States has sought to achieve its goals, exercise influence abroad, go to war, make peace, the types of things that countries do when they interact with other countries and with sort of movements and populations around the world. And so I'm interested broadly conceiving what we now call the United States in the world as a world power.
My name's Jerry Perez. I'm a retired Rear Admiral, 2 stars. Spent 32 years in the Navy, mostly flying airplanes. Graduated from Vanderbilt NROTC, and that's how I got my commission in the first place. Went straight to flight training, and then started flying A4 Skyhawks right out of flight training. The A4, by the way, is a little delta wing, single engine airplane. I've won several awards, the highest of which combat award is a Silver Star, 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses, and 13 individual strike flight air medals.
Well, most Americans supported preventing a communist takeover in South Vietnam, at least at the beginning. Americans were accustomed to this during the Cold War. They feared communism, they feared the Soviet Union, they feared China, they had fought a war in Korea. So they supported the initial effort.
We went in to try to fight a holding war and ended up not winning it as a result of that, I think. But from my perspective, when we got out of there, it wasn't all lost. I think the Domino Theory, which I believed in 100%, and you guys understand, I'm sure, what the Domino Theory was.
If this little nation goes down the drain and can't maintain her independence, ask yourself what's going to happen to all the other little nations.
I think the other nations of Southeast Asia did not tumble to communism. Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, they might have had communist takeovers, but ultimately they're not communist nations.
Well, to discuss which presidential policies is important, you have to understand that after 1945, the president really became the center of American foreign policy. Presidents famously had their fingers on the button. They could actually initiate a nuclear exchange. So they had tremendous power to defend the United States, but also to attack other nations. Well, the Vietnam War, of course, was fought over the duration of some 4 presidencies. President Eisenhower made the initial decisions to try to support an independent South Vietnam.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
President Kennedy decided to send a substantial number of military advisors to guide that government in fighting a communist insurgency that was launched by the North.
In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it. We can help them, we can give them equipment, we can send our men out there as advisors, but they have to win it, the people of Vietnam, against the communists.
President Johnson made the fateful decision to turn it into an American war and send almost 500,000 American soldiers to fight in the war and to bomb North Vietnam.
Why should 3 presidents and the elected representatives of our people have chosen to defend this Asian nation more than 10,000 miles from American shores? We cherish freedom, yes. We cherish self-determination for all people, yes. We abhor the political murder of any state by another, and the bodily murder of any people by gangsters of whatever ideology.
And we pay the price. We pay the price in humans, and we pay the price in dollars. But it's kind of what we were the big stud on the field in those days, and if somebody had to do it, then it would have been us that would try to do it.
And then President Nixon slowly extricated American forces, hoping to maintain independent Vietnam.
But I do say this. I have initiated a plan which will end this war.
So it really went over 4 presidents, and it would be the 5th president, Gerald Ford, who would have to stand by when the war came to an end with communist victory.
The course which our country chooses in the world today has never been of greater significance.
Hey, look yonder, tell me what's that you see, marching to the fields of Concord.
I met draft age toward the end of the war, and I was opposed to the war at the time. I thought the war was wrong, and I thought that it was not correct for the United States to try to intervene. I do have greater sympathy now with the situation of the South Vietnamese, who did not want to live under communist rule.
On my way to the Vietnam War, I was enthusiastic and felt that I was going to do something that I'd trained to do, and the government had put a lot of money into my trying to do. And so I was gung-ho. And when we went to the Hanoi thermal power plant the first 3 times, I was planned the flight and flew on the mission that delivered 5 walleyes into the thermal power plant and took it out of commission for about 6 weeks, which made all of Hanoi go dark during that period of time. And we also used it against a hangar. But the interesting thing about that particular mission, that's the mission that McCain went down on. He was coming in on top as we put the walleyes in the window. He was coming in on top for a dive bombing run, and he was hit right at the top of that dive with a SAM missile. And as I said, we didn't know he was alive for a while. Then on the way out, I spotted a train, and I had some other weapons, and fired my weapons against that train and stopped it. I don't know that it completely destroyed it, but that was an exciting mission, and one that I think was worthwhile because we were able to put the Hanoi thermal power plant out of commission for a while.
But wars have a way of becoming a catalyst, that they speed up change. I do think the Vietnam War was a catalyst to a remarkable series of social changes in America, most of which I think were good.
I remember coming back on one of those cruises, I think it was '68, and we even considered the possibility that we might have to bomb Watts in California. There were so many fires and riots in the Watts area that we even talked about what would it be like if we had to go in and bomb Watts as we came back in to San Diego or San Francisco, because there was so much unrest. So the whole nation was upset. The whole nation was, and because I'd done what I thought I was supposed to do, and my family was okay, maybe I was narrow-minded, but I didn't get that upset about it. My new wife says you don't know what you missed by not being here in the '60s.
Over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
So I never had any of the feeling that, I mean, I was scared a lot, but I never had any of the feeling that this wasn't worth doing. To me, it was definitely worth doing. And I enjoyed it. I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat.
I think it's hard to say that the war was necessary. Some 3 million Vietnamese would die in the war, 60,000 Americans, and countless suffering. You want to think that there's some purpose or meaning to that. In many respects, I don't see it. It seems that lots of people lost their lives for nothing, and that's a terrible thought. There's still not much political freedom there, and there's still things that I think could be changed, but In some ways, the United States has probably done better having lost the war than it would have had it won. The Vietnam that exists today is much more like the South Vietnam that existed during the war years, a freer and more capitalist society. What is different is, of course, that the communists still control the politics of the country, but it is a remarkable success as an economic entity, and in many respects, people there live better than they ever have.
Nights in white satin, never reaching the end.